before we get into the days of creation, we do need to talk about the concept of God versus time, right? Like the belief of us Christians, well, like we believe God is above all these metrics known to mankind, like time, for example, size, like length, width, breadth, and height. Like we can't physically say how big God is. We also can't say how old God is definitively. So when we tell, for example, when we tell an atheist we believe that God was there at the beginning of time, like what does that actually mean? Because the obvious next question is how can something be there, without a creator itself and just be there at the beginning of time? That doesn't really make sense. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, well, a couple of things regarding time. Of course, Augustine, the church father, who was quite an intelligent fella, he'd thought this through, and he really said, there's this accusation out there. They were being mocked at the time. Oh, God waited around for like forever and then eventually decided, hey, I think I'll create a world, And Augustine explains time is really something that creation needs to measure change and history. When you're in changeless eternity, there is no need for time and essentially no existence of time. So there's no use asking how God spent his time before creation. You only need time when there is creation. And so it's kind of a null question. I was reading by chance a chapter by a Jesuit astronomer. I think he's died recently, William Stoger, something like that. And he said, actually, critics of Christianity still have the same problem of having to start with something. To talk about a quantum fluctuation in nothingness doesn't really mean anything either. So whether you're a Christian or an atheist or whatever in between, you still have that problem. When people talk about a stack of turtles, is it turtles all the way down or is there a bottom turtle in causal terms? Everybody's got the problem of what the first turtle is, and it doesn't matter whether you're a theist or not. So I think the key question is really, is original reality, is the starting point, the first cause, the first reality of everything else, is that personal or is it impersonal? And so a couple of good quotes. A Christian philosopher called Simon Oliver says, whenever cosmologists attempt to define creation from nothing in scientific terms, it always turns out to be something coming from something else. They can never really identify a pure nothing. And Steger says, physics can never tell us how we get from absolutely nothing to something that has a particular order. So if skeptics are pointing the finger at us and saying, where does God come from? We really get just as much authority to say back, well, where does your starting state come from? Calling it a quantum fluctuation doesn't really iron out the problem for them.